Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cody Smith, and I'm a policy associate at the Center for Rural Affairs. The Center for Rural Affairs, as you may know, is around to build more vibrant rural communities. And as part of that, through our work on the policy program, we have individuals, including myself, who work in state capitals in a variety of different states to implement political changes and policy changes that benefit the lives of rural people. My role here at the center is I manage our Iowa state policy portfolio, and specifically that relates to, in our work here in the state, specifically to renewable energy, including wind, solar, and transmission infrastructure and projects, as well as watershed management improvement efforts. So that includes improving water quality and reducing flooding risks in rural communities across the state. And specifically, we work to empower local folks to be involved in those decisions. The thing I wanted to visit with you quickly about today is just give you a quick overview of the Iowa Legislature's website and teach you a few navigational tricks for how you can stay up to date with what we're following at the Iowa Legislature. I'm going to start with just a few casual overviews of what the website for the Iowa Legislature has to offer and how you can navigate it. So I'm going to share my screen here at this moment. So you should be able to see this here. I wanted to start with the very first basic thing that we can do. Each of us has two legislators that represent us in the Iowa State House, a state representative and a state senator. State representatives have smaller districts that include fewer people. State senators have larger districts that include more folks. So if you're looking to find out who your legislators are, I would encourage you to go to this website, legis.iowa.gov. This is the Iowa Legislature's website where you can find all the information you're looking for. And click on this tab here at the top. I'll circle it just real quick for you and click on legislators. There's a link on the top left that says find your legislator. And so what you can do is you can enter your street address here in this bar, and it will show you who your legislators are. So I am entering the address of the Iowa CFRA office, and you can see that pops up and autofills there. And I'm going to hit search, and it'll show me that my senator is Senator Annette Sweeney and show me the district. And then my representative is Dave DeGoy, who is District 49. And one of the other things that I think is really instrumental and important in finding out who your legislators are and who those of your neighbors are and other people in your family and your friends is to look at the legislative district. There's a link below that I just clicked on, and you can see with our office in Nevada, Iowa, which is just here on this map, the district actually expands quite a bit a ways up north and east in the state. You can do that for each of those here, or you can just click on that legislator tab and you can look at a list of senators, which includes all of the senators from both chambers. For some reason, that's deciding not to load here, but that's okay. We'll go back to the last legislative session and look at the list of senators there. I think that's because they haven't officially been sworn in and gavelled in yet. So this is from last legislative session. You can see the list of senators. You can click the top here and name, and it'll alphabetize the list. You can do it by district, so you can start at 1 and go all the way to the end. You can do it by party. So if you're interested in seeing who's in the majority party, at this time, it's the Republican Party in both the House, the Senate, and the governor is a Republican as well. You can see the counties when they reside from, and it gives kind of an overview of where their district is at as well. You can do the same with representatives by clicking on the left-hand column where it says representatives. And I'm just hearkening back to last year's legislative session because this current list isn't updated yet. You can see, again, the same list of House representatives. You can, again, click at the name at the top to view an alphabetized list of those representatives, same with district, party, and county. So that's the first step, finding out who your legislator is, finding out where their districts are, and looking to see who's in the majority party there. One of the other things that plays an instrumental role in the creation of laws and policy at the Iowa Legislature is who leads and who is a member of committees. You can see at the top here that it has a bar, which I've highlighted here, that says committees and schedules. So if you click on this list, you can see who are the members of the Senate committees, which are listed here. Who are the members of the House committee, committees, which are listed here. You can see that there are several committees in both chambers. And then there are these things called appropriations joint subcommittees. This year, because of the pandemic, they won't be meeting jointly, but essentially it's a list of folks, as you can see, pops up in this menu from both chambers who chair that respective subcommittee for appropriations. For the one we most often interact with is the Ag and Natural Resources Appropriations Subcommittee. These folks work together to craft budget for state agencies and other state-led efforts as it relates to these different topic areas, such as ag and natural resources, economic development authority, appropriations, and educations, and other things like that. So one of the things that's most important to see is who's chairing these committees, because they get to decide which legislation moves to a subcommittee. They assign members to that subcommittee, and they decide when committee hearings are set and what bills make it to a full vote on the committee. So we'll just use the Senate Agriculture Committee as an example. You can see that the chairman for the last legislative session in the Senate was Dan Zumba. He's a Republican from District 48. Again, you can check out his legislative district map there. This year, I believe that the Senate Agriculture Committee chairman has changed. I know that Senator Annette Sweeney, for example, the senator for our Iowa office, as I pointed out earlier, is the incoming chair of the Senate Natural Resources Committee. So there's a lot of changes that have happened over the last year as far as leadership and elected representatives go. But this is an important way that you can find out who's on the relevant committees where the bills and other issues that you're interested in are the most appropriate folks to interact with and engage with on these topics. So now that we know how to find committees and membership, I want to just kind of back out to the main page. You'll see the main page here. This bar in the top left is one of the most useful tools. You can see the bills that I have searched in the past here. This is where you can find bills that you're interested in. So if somebody says to you, have you seen SSB 3116? Sounds kind of confusing. SSB is an abbreviation for Senate Study Bill. There's also Senate File, which is SF. There's a House Study Bill, HSB. There's a House File, HF. And then there's also resolutions, which are HR and SR. You'll see a lot of these different variations. They're just indications on where the legislation is in the process. So I'm going to use this as an example. Senate Study Bill 3116 from the last legislative session was the governor's proposed Invest in Iowa Act. And as you can see, it didn't work here, but that's just because we're in the last session. So we'll change it to this one, and we'll put that name back in there, SSB 3116. This is where you can see it. So this was proposed by the governor, of course. It's the Invest in Iowa Act, and it is a monster of legislation. But you can see it here, and it has all of this. The amendments are stricken. You can see the different sections. And if you're interested in sharing this, there's a PDF button that I just clicked. I'll highlight that here. And it'll bring up the bill as a PDF for you. So you can download it, you can share it, you can look through it, you can zoom in, you can do whatever it is that you would like to do to review that legislation. This is a really important tool for looking up bills that impact your lives and that you're interested in looking at. So again, just to recap, this bill search tool in the side, you can do that. And if you don't know the bill name, you can say fish or insurance or replacement tax, and it'll take you to the bills that relate to those topics. Very useful tool. One of the other things that I wanted to view with you each, so I'm going to go back to 3116, again, the Invest in Iowa Act, and show you what the bill history is. So this shows you where the legislation is in the chamber. Obviously, this is referring to last legislative session, so none of these dates are current, and the governor has also decided not to reintroduce this proposal this year. So this gives you an idea, is it just introduced? Is it in subcommittee? Is it in the full committee? Is it on the House floor, the Senate floor, or is it on its way back and forth between both? So you can see different versions are introduced. One of the things that I think is most important to see about bills is this little kind of obscure thing down here. It's called lobbyist declarations. So if you click on that, you'll see which of the lobbyists at the State House and which organizations they represent have registered for, against, or undecided on bills in the legislature. You can see that my supervisor here at the center, Jonathan Holotic, has registered for the Invest in Iowa Act, and it shows when and his position. So you can look through this entire list, and in this bill is a good example of a good diversity of folks who are interested in the legislation. who have registered for, against, undecided, and review that for yourself. That way you kind of know where the key players in Iowa policy stand on these bills, whether it's farmer interest groups, trade interest groups, family interest groups, or groups like the Center for Rural Affairs that are committed to nonprofit advocacy. So that is an important tool that I wanted to point out to you. Lastly, I wanted to kind of recap how you can look up sections of the Iowa Code. So in the Invest in Iowa Act conversation, obviously one of those components of the bill was to raise the sales tax to provide the constitutionally required 3/8 of 1 cent sales tax revenue to the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund, or IWIL. If you want to look at the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund as it exists in state law currently, it's unfunded, but it's still written into state law, then you can use this Iowa code search here. And I'm just going to say Chapter 461, because that is where you will find the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund. So you'll see that I didn't need to include the word chapter here, so I will just take that out and just put 461, and I hit enter. This is the state code section for the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund. You can see definitions, which departments get what, which accounts exist as approved on the constitutional amendment that was on the ballot in 2010. So this is a good way to find issues in legislation, or not legislation, law and code as it currently exists, to figure out where things are and what would be changed under certain bills. So that's a really useful tool here as well. One of the things I want to point out in light of the changes for Senate and House procedures for the COVID-19 pandemic is this main page here. We're back on the main page. So I'll just click this. This is back the main page. You can see live video and live audio of what's currently happening in the Senate and what's currently happening in the House. It takes on particular importance this year because Senate committees in particular will be taking their meetings on the Senate floor and live streaming those meetings as they see fit to encourage folks not to come to the Capitol as much as possible, although the Capitol will remain open to the public and lobbyists and others throughout the legislative session in certain areas and certain circumstances. So as you can see, this is a massive website. If there is any way that I can help you or the Center for Rural Affairs can help you navigate your state's legislative webpage, especially the Iowa legislative webpage, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to me. My name again is Cody Smith, and I'm a policy associate here at the Center for Rural Affairs. And I'm happy to assist you in any way that I can. And as we move through the legislative session, we'll be relying on support and interaction from each of you, rural Iowans across the state, to move these priorities forward and make sure that we are doing what is necessary to improve the lives of rural Iowans in the State House. So as we continue to move forward, I hope you'll stay engaged with us. I hope you'll follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at CFRA. You can find me on Twitter at CodyCFRA to keep up to date with what I'm following, and also sign up for our newsletter. We send out a bi-weekly legislative update, the Iowa Legislative Update. That's a brief email that kind of breaks down the bills of the week and where things stand as far as our priorities go. You can also find our 2021 legislative agenda on the CFRA.org website, and you can review our priorities and engage with us on those. So thanks again for tuning in for this brief overview of the Iowa Legislative website. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.